Hi, my name is Winsaya, and welcome to my video on if the units in Age of Wonders 4 will feel generic. My guest this week is Reality. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Got to spend a lot of time with family, but for this, unit descriptions were fun to look up the old ones. So
Yeah,
haven't read all of them in a while.
I think if I remember correctly, you and Amigdar were talking about the Kirko ones when I was researching the Kirko are kind of like Shadow Demons video, right?
Yeah,
So I think you're a perfect guest for this topic, honestly. The fact that we aren't going to have unit descriptions in Age of Wonders 4 is a really, really big deal. In this video, I want to first talk about the thread that inspired me to make this video. Then I want to talk about the unit descriptions in Planetfall. After that, we'll talk a little bit more about the lack of unit descriptions in Age of Wonders 4, as well as a proposed solution by one of the devs on the official forums. And I think we could also maybe talk a little bit about unit evolutions because I feel like they're kind of tangentially related. I think they, in a weird way, make the game well, not in a weird way. I think they do make it so that the experience is more enjoyable and less generic. It feels more customized to your experience when you are like, I'm going to go down this path and build up my army this way. I think evolutions really help your empire feel customized. So yeah, without further ado, I think we can jump into the forum that inspired this whole topic. So I saw this on the forums, concern about culture units being samey, and it I think had the most views out of all of the posts. And I think a lot of people are pretty concerned because the six culture types are going to give you generic types of units like I believe they mentioned how the crossbow unit is very similar to the archer units that most of the cultures get, but the industrial class gets a crossbow, which makes it slightly different. But in general, you're going to end up seeing those six types of classes a lot, and over the course of the game, you'll be able to customize them more and create more of a story. But at the very beginning, you don't get the really fun unit descriptions that you did in previous Age of Wonders games, which I think is a pretty big deal. When I first heard that, I was pretty bummed, pretty sad, but I think that there's enough lore hidden throughout the game that it could make up for the fact that we don't have the story right there in the unit descriptions. What do you think? Reality, do you agree?
um, and it does. It still bums me up, but like at first, I'm like, well, I mean, what are we missing? Are we going to Age of Wonders 3? We have unit descriptions. Age of Wonders Planetfall, we have unit descriptions, but also the research descriptions, which are kind of like indirectly unit descriptions in a lot of cases. Because, of course, you have to research most of the high tier units.
Right.
Um, so, in this, from the previews, I don't think we actually see them complete a research, but I'm assuming we're getting neither. We definitely don't get the full unit description though.
Yeah,
And
a real shame. Because, like, if we just take a quick look at this one over here, it's hilarious. Like, I love this still story. It's just a little paragraph. It's very well written. I don't know who it is on their team that writes these unit descriptions, but they're probably my favorite writer. I know that's not saying a lot because I don't read a lot, but they make me laugh like 9 times out of 10. It's a pretty special accomplishment. Um,
yeah, they're good for the humor writing. Like I think for straight fantasies, I do like the Majesty which is kind of an older game, 2001.
mhm.
Majesty uh Kingdom Sim has great unit descriptions for its guys. But
But
uh
they
there are a
will
couple
have
other good games.
they will have this mythic unit class, which is like tier 5. And I think in a weird way, this guy doesn't need its own unit description because it's a mythical unit. This is something that I think other people have heard about on other planets. So they're going to have, I think, lore entries on that unit type throughout the planets that you explore. It's just, I think it's been moved to other parts of the game, which would make a lot of sense to me. They want these to start off as blank slates so you can really make it your own. You can come up with your own story. And I think that there's a really good case for that ambiguity, allowing people to bring their own stories to the game. But at the same time, I want something for me to explore. I don't want it just a completely blank slate of a world to go out
Yeah,
into.
for the things at the mythic level, I imagine you'll probably be talking about them or directly to them in some cases, like during. I know they're not called anomalous sites, but during things like that, big quest change, you explore the tomb, you find the golem, you find the origin of the golem, or
Yeah,
if it's a dragon or whatever.
I always get arcology and anomaly sites mixed up from Stellaris in Age of Wonders Planetfall. Um, so I think we could start looking through some of our favorite descriptions now. If there's nothing else we wanted to say about the thread and just like, the fact that some people are concerned about culture units. Yeah, why don't we start just looking at some of our favorites? When I was asking people, I think this one was one of people's favorites, but I feel like in a vacuum, it's not as funny as if you see the one that builds up, that it builds towards, because this is talking about a little Derek Hampton and how he loved his baby beetle, but like then it evolved into an adult mega beetle, and it ended up being a terrible monster that could bite through walls, spit globs of deadly venom, and Derek believed that this would be his friend. He was wrong. Everyone died, and it's pretty silly. But I love the fact that Derek apparently didn't die in this event, and they decided to use him again when talking about the liquid tick. Um, let's find that unit up here. So Dr. Derek Hampton is the person who they got this quote from. This is the same Derek. He talks about when he was a child and how he ignorantly thought a ladybug or a tick was a ladybug, and then he believed an alien beetle larva was his friend, but then it destroyed everything he loved. And then he made the same mistake again of like basically studying this thing, and it turned out to be really deadly and just killing all his grad students. And so he decided to rename it into a tick, just kind of like the ladybug that was actually a tick when he was a kid. It's silly but fun, right?
Yeah, it's venting his anger. Like, dang.
It's very easy to read one of these and miss the fact that it's referencing the other one. Like if you're really paying attention, you can be, oh right, I remember Derek. That was a character that appeared in another thing. There was, I think, the tactician, the Shikaran tactician, that does something similar with a character called Dan Carvey, I believe. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Um,
It mentions the
ooh,
fact that there's like some
I'm
conspiracy
squinting.
news drop sites, and like this guy Dan Carvey, a GBI
Yeah,
agent.
the GBI does it. Yeah, it's throughout them. Like most of them are either him. There's like actually one from a guy trying to like cover him up or get him fired. I think I think that's the infiltrator actually.
Yeah, yeah, no, Agent
Yeah,
Carvey will be handled, and then like I believe the Shikan's like, yeah, no, this guy is just like misleading people. He's a conspiracy theory, and this is coming from Private Drake Izzard. Nothing suspicious there.
nothing.
Yeah. Hissing voices beckon. Doc says it's PTSD. Take your meds. The voices will fade. What if the routine patrols aren't just routine? It hovers in my dreams with reptilian eyes. Yeah, this is Private Drake Izzard. He says something about the drop sites, right? Or am I remembering it wrong? It must have been another one. But still, this is pretty funny.
Yeah, that's like that. That's it's basically written from the description of the when he uses the one of us all along. He pseudo converts you, and so yeah, some of your troopers or some of your indentured or whatever you're using
Right.
are actually lizards underneath.
I know what you mean. When I was researching this, I think the Firebrand was actually my all-time favorite. I really like the fact that this is referencing a movie called Beast Monster. What a great name for a movie. And the fact that he got the ideas from the conspiracy. Yeah, this is it from he
Making
stole some of it from
his
his
B
conspiratorial
movie.
news drop site. And that's the one where Dan Carvey was telling people about what he was seeing, or not Carvey, Cranny or something like that. Regardless, I love this one. It's one of my favorites. Are there any that you'd like me to pull up that you really enjoyed reality?
Oh, dang. From this site, dang.
I can
I know I
type in
wrote
any of
them
them.
down, and now I feel bad for not having them. I guess let's just go with the mycelium. Dang
Yeah,
it, that's hard to spell. It's
uh,
like planning.
it's okay because I got this button up here for units.
There should be an other.
Yeah, my cylinders. So do you want to
There
start
we
with
go.
the sprayer?
Yeah, sprayer's fine.
So this one's pretty good. I don't remember exactly what it talks about. I remember specifically the fertilizer being really, really funny about like vegan stuff. So this one starts off saying something about how they don't usually complain, right? This is somebody writing to the complaint department. And apparently the drones have gone missing and they're hunting people now, spraying them with blinding toxic mist rather than the crops. They're very popular with certain mushroom strains, beginning to think that they've got a mind of their own. And please refund my money and maybe send some troops to hunt down your defective units before they kill us all. Thanks. I
Yeah,
mean,
I really feel like the myceliums in general are like a more concentrated version of the growth. Where the growth have a lot of different themes going on, but the myceliums are just a pretty straight. They're evil mushrooms, but they want to grow specifically on on people. So yeah, they kill you, then they grow on you.
I find it really funny that we've got this megacorp here that this person's complaining to, because that's like one of the central themes to Age of Wonders Planetfall, is that there's a bunch of giant corporations that are super powerful and basically do whatever they want with no regulation. There's TerraCorp. There's oh boy, is TerraCorp the same as the Promethean one? I think Cynumbra's got its own thing. Like all of the secret techs are linked to some like organization that's incredibly powerful. Helix drone farming, I don't think is quite as powerful as those secret tech corporations, but they're everywhere. I think TerraCorp was Amazon's, right? Does that sound close to right to you?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like there's even some that like the weapon groups, well, specifically like the laser one. I think there's a big laser monopoly who makes a bunch of them. I can't remember. I think that I can't bring up the research quotes like
R-
out of game, sadly, but
We may have them here for not mods,
no,
but
it
tech
doesn't have the
tree.
flavor text.
And yeah, if I hover over this, does it not show me the flavor text? It doesn't look like it. Well,
It's
it's
a
in
shame
there.
though.
You know, it's kind of like how we are talking about them adding lore outside of unit descriptions in Age of Wonders 4. They'd already been doing that in previous Age of Wonders games, like Age of Wonders Planetfall here. There were one or
That was,
two other like unit descriptions that I thought we could highlight here before moving on.
yeah,
I think the next one would be the pug. The pug is a pretty good one. The pug
yeah, the almost mascot.
is, yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
Vanguard's healing unit, and a lot of people play the Vanguard first, so this is one of the more like common units, one of the more popular units, and I think as a result of them kind of uh, knowing that people were probably going to gravitate to this faction, they wrote a really good description for the pug. Do you know this one? Like in general, is this one you're familiar with?
Now, yeah, like it's supposed to shoot smoke, but he switches it to pudding, but then forgets to take it out before the actual battle starts.
Yeah, yeah. At the end, it says normally it'd heal him right up, and instead it sprayed him with chocolate pudding. That's when the battle took a turn for the worse. And it's just kind of like, okay, now you get to make up the rest of the story in your mind. Maybe that
A little
means
bit of an
everybody's wiped out. Maybe that, there's the one lone survivor. I mean, Lieutenant Lenny Sass had to survive in order to give this account, so there's at least one survivor, but the rest is up to you. How badly you want to
yeah,
imagine
or
the battle going.
almost an understatement. I I feel like there's kind of like three like archetypes and how these are written. There's kind of there's um there's like a Star Union era like corporate writing, which is usually like a funny advertisement or a news article, and that's on a lot of like robotic units, but also things like the the what are they called? The succubots and the ink.
Mhm. Roy 2 and Emma. Those are
Yeah, Roy
guys.
too.
Those ones are a little bit more salacious, but yeah, these are pretty funny. Roy 2's got some. It's just
I think
basically.
some, yeah, and again, like the plant units, he that was complaining to customer service, and I think, um, so yeah, there's like the old advertisements archetype. Those are a lot of those are funny. And then there's like the post battle type things. I think a lot of the assemblies have it. Like half of them will be like it'll be like the history of someone getting mauled by them, or it'll be like the threat assessments one where it's the assemblies themselves, how we plan to are them planning their attack. And the other ones will be like not the scavenger. It'll be, oh god, they're everywhere. You know, the victims of the attack.
Yeah,
And it's a nice narrative battle thing. So,
it
and then the
really
third one is
makes it
just other.
feel lived in, I think, the variety. Sorry, you go ahead. You're saying the third one was?
Yeah, and I think the third one's just the like, just the, I guess more. It's like, so it's, I'm gonna say narrative, Star Union era advertisement, like corporate advertisement, and then battle reports.
Yeah,
Which I guess that's a. I could like you could probably divide them up differently, but God, I read like I
I
can't remember how many units there are,
I may
like 200
revisit this
something.
topic and kind of organize them into categories and create kind of like tier lists to be like, this is my favorite like salacious unit description, or this is my favorite like serious like one where it just kind of gives a lot of detail, and these are just like funny, just like pure funny. Like the pug one is to me is just it's purely funny. It's silly, and I love that about it. There's some that are very like dark and graphic, but like still funny in their own way. And yeah, I think that is something I'm definitely gonna miss in Age of Wonders 4. We could talk about the Apex. I really like how it talks about them becoming pirates, and they're like,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
understand how that happened. They're just pirates now. And then the Shattered Arc is written by some cosmetics person talking about how it makes their skin glow. But I think for the purposes of this video,
Mhm.
we've made the point, and we can move on to the potential compromise that I saw.
Yeah, so we're going to no, none. And then, of course, people argue, was it really a factor, of course, in the 2D games, Age of Wonders 1, 2, and Shadow Magic? And
Hmm.
um, Age of Wonders 1, can't really, I can't really give you a website that brings them up online, but every every race has, of course, four semi-shared units: swordsman, archer, cavalry, and the priest. And it's really they kind of have half utilitarian, half flavor as their description. Because any special ability, especially the priest, will be specifically mentioned. Every single priest in the game has a paragraph. Well, that'll mention dispel magic, magic strike, magic bolts, and healing. And it's kind of clunky, but at the same time, the like it's usually a two paragraph description. The first one will say like specifically like the Yaka priest. Sorry, the Azrek priest are dedicated to Yaka. The elf priest are like do the nature thing and or how they got respect in their culture. And then the second one will be the awful mechanical one. It's kind of because unit abilities in Age of Wonders 1 don't have tooltips when you hover over them, so they
Hmm.
just crammed it into the description. So, like, the units that have tons of abilities are not very flavorful. And for shared units like archers, they might get the human archer. It says the best human archers are average. The best compliment they can have are he has elven blood. Like
Yeah,
that's
they're
their unit
simple.
description.
I
That's
like that it got more complicated over time.
but there's some flavor for each race's variant. The best descriptions in Age of Wonders 1, of course, are for the non-shared units. The penguins have a good one for being evil.
Oh, I didn't pull up the
Uh,
penguins.
the original penguin.
Yeah, you can keep going. I forgot to show the
And of course, the
penguins.
Goblin Bomber is probably the big winner of Age of Wonders 1 because it's the insane goblins. Goblins never suffer a drawn out old age because they like to speed up the end and go out with a bang, which is that's dark humor, but that's how Age of Wonders 1 rolls.
Yeah,
Uh, I guess you can say loosely, other than the Goblin Bomber, most of the Age of Wonders ones are written from a kind of for military eyes perspective. Like everyone, can't think of any other unit that isn't treated as a serious like military commander unit in its writing. It'll always explain how they can whatever be savage or be dangerous. I can't think of anything in Age of Wonders 1 that's not like even the fairy described is able to contribute to the battlefield. And it's like, really? Every single one? It's like, but in the Age of Wonders Shadow Magic, they got more silly.
yeah.
They're not all about battles anymore. And then Age of Wonders 3 and Planetfall, we have a lot of narrative. A lot of these don't even hint at fighting.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's like if you want you can look at like some of the details here and that give you more of like the what this actually does in combat. This jumps
Yeah.
damages fly wing units. That's just like this is exactly what it does. No flavor. Okay, cat, I see it. You want to hang out with me? Not right now. Just running at me now. um so yeah, no, I agree. It's pretty cool that they've changed, and it is kind of weird that now there are no unit descriptions in Age of Wonders 4. But it does sound like there are some things that you can edit in your race bio. It is auto
And
generated. Um, they said it would be cool to have a little text box during character creation that lets you write down. This is somebody's idea, a little bit of information about your people, and it sounds like they're considering doing that, but it's just auto generated at this point. Okay, so I was remembering it wrong. It looks like you can't edit this just yet. What I would love is being able to add like a little text box to each of your units and to write a story for it that you could share with people, um, either like through a mod
mm,
or something like that. If there is something built into the game where they had a single um like fully fleshed out like description for all the units and for the faction for the race, that they do a competition for every month, so it's just not overwhelming. They're not putting all kinds of random
mm,
things into the game. I think that'd be really fun. I think Spore had something similar to this the back in like 2005 or something. Spore came out, and they had a problem with a lot of just inappropriate things showing up in people's worlds. So you do kind
like,
of have to curate a list, make sure people aren't putting anything that could be considered, problematic or maybe even copyright infringement. So you're gonna like have to tailor it at a certain point if you're going to allow other people to design these things that appear in other people's worlds. But I think there's a lot of ways you could go about doing that could be pretty fun, pretty interesting to play around with. So that was my idea, just kind of piggybacking on this idea of like, okay, if you could just add a little description, that would be great, and then that can appear in your future games. But I think taking that a step further and saying what I create can then maybe appear in somebody else's game would really add a lot of replayability, a lot of flavor to it. But maybe I'm just kind of like holding on to something that I don't need to. I think maybe the story is supposed to develop as you play instead of just be there right on turn one.
mhm,
um, so who knows? That's just my 2 cents on how it could be kind of how this kind of anxiety could be managed, or what kind of solution could be implemented to try and bring back that idea of unit descriptions in a new way that meshes with what they're striving to do in Age of Wonders 4. Um, Any thoughts? You ready to talk about unit evolutions?
Uh, I guess we could also say real quick that the unit descriptions from the old games to three, especially three, all the class ones, the class Crusader and the Warlords units couldn't mention what race was being involved. Uh, uh, but some of them did involve narrative battles where, like, I say, like the Bone Collector is specifically fighting elves in his unit description, but of course in gameplay you could just be an elf necromancer yourself
Hmm.
or whatever. Um, what and well, the racial units, they were stories told by elves or by people elves were attacking or whatever.
That'd be
And
fun to add in
you
there.
always they always have for some cases that they feel you can feel them dancing around, that they couldn't say the Crusader is following whatever Amnon. It was like, but what race is this description written for?
Right.
Like, who is the Crusader?
So I did remember one or two things I wanted to add onto this topic. I think if people want to see changes like this, we have to speak up now. If you wait until after the game has come out, I think it's far less likely that they're going to implement a system that allows you to either, just write a little bit about your your faction, the thing you created at the beginning of the game. And I think that if they were to implement something like this, then it would really emphasize role playing instead of just playing competitively to get the biggest numbers the fastest. People would tell more of a story with their faction, and I think that would be fun to see what people come up with. So yeah, I think now might be a good point to transition over to the unit evolutions. I
Oh yeah.
believe uh, people were pretty concerned because there wasn't anything in the gameplay streams that showed a unit evolving into another one. But Jordy addressed that in the Discord, I believe. Um, Somebody was saying, "Oh, in previous games we had gigantic transformation, which would give like 20% extra damage and uh, other things make him bigger and scarier." And Jordy said the Nature Tome has something that's exactly like that. So it
They're
is in
gigantic.
there, we just haven't seen it yet. I also wanted to shout out this post right here. It's full of amazing information. Eric DB just went and took a bunch of screenshots, like a bunch of screenshots of stuff in game
Yeah,
and
pause
organized them.
framing,
I
zooming them in.
I almost made a video just like breaking down all of the fantastic information on here, but that just feels like too much piggybacking. I might just
Yeah, that's like like 6 weeks of content.
I think I'll maybe put like a post in my community tab on YouTube that links to this because
Yeah,
this is a fantastic page with
I'd link
so
to
much
it,
great
especially
information.
if he keeps updating it as we, get to the later directs.
Hmm. I think I saw somewhere else. What does this say in my notes? Yeah, they were just somebody else from Paradox, or not Paradox, from Triumph was confirming that that's still in the game. There's things like gargoyles that you can summon, and animated armor which you can summon, which will also appear on the map. And I think having those units on the map will make it so that the what you have to fight and what you have will feel less generic. If it's just like, the 6 unit types, and I could see that getting pretty boring. But I think there's actually going to be a bunch of things that you can recruit into your nation, and then maybe evolve into more interesting things, and it'll be kind of like a synergy between two different different starting factions or races, and I think that will lead to some interesting gameplay.
Oh yeah, that's one thing in planetfall. It doesn't happen too often, but the units that are normally combat only summons can appear as neutral guards, and some of them, like the Vanguard Valkyrie, shows up a lot as a neutral guard, and like the missile site. I'm like, but on the world map, the strategic map, it'll show up as an army leader because it's almost always the highest tier thing in its deck. And I'm like, what
Hmm.
is that? Because I'm like, you can't build those normally. I'm like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's showing up as an NPC guard. I'm like, whoa.
there was something like 200 units, I think, in planetfall, and they haven't given us the exact number, but I think that there is going to be a large variety in the base game,
Mm,
and
I'm
after they release
I
DLCs,
well,
that number is just going to go up. I could see there being like,
I'm saying 9 per culture. It'll wait, if I count the T5, maybe even more than 9. 9 per
yeah,
culture, then we have,
all the
let's see,
tome
there's
units are
54
going to have
tomes. There's
summons,
54
so.
tomes, which
And
we
then,
thought had 1 each, but I think it's actually I think oh, think I think there might be 6 tomes without units.
yeah,
This is based on names in a certain thread, but I can't bring that up right now.
it's all
Like,
speculation.
I think it was like the,
So we haven't seen those actually yet, and all of this stuff is like numbers that work in progress, subject to change. Like it could all change very drastically
yeah, I'm
before
saying 9
game
times
actually
6
releases.
from the cultures plus 48 plus, things like the 2 ogres and the giants and
Yeah,
dragons, which are not tome related, but they're definitely units.
they're like NPC factions, but I think you get them through Ancient Wonders now. This Bronze Ancient Wonder can allow you to use Brewer Ogres and Butcher Ogres in Rally of the Lieges, which is something we haven't seen yet, but I'm sure
Yeah,
that's
so
coming up
yeah, I'm
soon. I'm
getting like
excited.
54 plus 54 plus about 40. So like there's going to be at least 170 units in the game.
In the base game, and I imagine eventually a lot more than that, like maybe double by the time they're done with development. Um,
And they might go nuts, but like 170, that's more now every. I feel bad saying that.
yeah, and
I would.
in case I haven't made it clear yet, I do want to make sure that I want to answer my question. Will the units in Age of Wonders 4 feel generic? I feel like based on what we've talked about here, it's pretty clear that I'd feel like they won't be generic. I think there will be a lot of personality, but I will miss specifically unit descriptions. I think as we proved earlier, they were very good in Planetfall, and yeah, I'm hoping that that writing quality, that storyline has just been moved over to other parts of the game, and I'm pretty confident that it has been. Are there any final thoughts you want to go over before we wrap up here?
Um, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's no worries, and thanks for joining me here. It's really fun.
Oh wait, I could think of one last thing.
Hmm.
This is a one game only feature, which is Shadow Magic. In Shadow Magic only, not only did the generic heroes also had descriptions. So I can't think of a hero name, but there was one halfling hero who was like stranded. It's one of the. It's like a female halfling hero with 7 brothers or something, and she was stranded in the woods. And she had to learn how to be a hunter for herself.
That's
But like
funny.
all of the heroes have their own description, and they're not the leaders.
That's
Um,
so random. I can't.
it's so strange. Yeah, in Age of Wonders 1, heroes do not have descriptions. Age of Wonders 3 and Planetfall, heroes do not have descriptions. Even the heroes you get from anomalous sites don't have descriptions after they're recruited.
Yeah. I think you just need to know those stories. Like there, a lot of the characters that you get just from recruiting after turn 10, they appear in campaigns and other things.
Like
And
I can
yeah, if you
think
don't
there's
know
like a
them, it's just
Vanguard,
some guy.
the Laser Mancer. Like his title's all you have to go off of. Or any Age of Wonders 3 hero you'll get, the Meek or whatever. That's
Yeah.
all you have to go off of what their personality could be. But yeah, some of them have wacky. They're really wacky. I I don't actually like a lot of them because Shadow Shadow Magic's Shadow Magic is almost a parody at times.
Hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes I enjoy it. I have to be in the mood.
Yeah.
It can go.
And
It can be really silly.
I'm glad that we kept talking because I just had another thought about like why these units won't feel generic. Just look at the unit design of like this gargoyle. Like it's so cool looking, and the animated armor looks so cool. Everything I've seen looks really interesting, except for maybe the generic, or not generic, the starting culture units, because they haven't
Yeah,
had
the
any
starting culture
transformations
unit.
applied to them. But they have to be simple for transformations to be easy to apply. So I get it. It's a trade-off they had to make in order to make it so that your units become more customizable. They feel like your empire, and I think that will add to replayability.
Yeah, the leather and chainmail units will be the worst off because I mean, yeah, they're both wearing armor, but this one has a pike and this one has a longsword. It's like, oh, but
Yeah.
that doesn't say anything like the
And
viciousness of a crusher or so on.
if people feel like it's generic, if they complain about it, the next DLC will probably address that. Um, but yeah, I think we can ramp up here. It was super fun, reality. I'm looking forward to talking to you more about other subjects.
If I wanted to give a teaser, like I'm trying to get a new PC so I can stream, I can do higher quality recordings, but I was working on speed running Age of Wonders 3. I would have started on the older games, but they people have already done them.
Hmm.
I do. I normally speedrun RTS games, but I just feel bad that on speedrun.com that there was a gap in the series. Because one in Shadow Magic had speedruns, but three didn't, and three was the most popular game at the time. I'm like, someone ought to do it.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know you had a channel. I'll definitely like put you in my featured
Uh,
channels list and like put some links in places. That's awesome to know. Yeah, cool.
yeah, 4X isn't the most exciting as a speed run because obviously you auto resolve the whole time, but it's it is some novelty. So I'm
Hmm.
I'm gonna try to do that, like probably by summer.
Awesome. I'll keep an eye out.